5 crazy facts about the Home Alone movies. Number 1. The role was made for Macaulay Culkin. It's been a few decades since the film's release, but many people still have questions about the film star Macaulay Culkin, who was only a child when he first had us rooting for him against the bad guys and making us laugh out loud. Culkin rose to prominence after reuniting with Candy and director John Hughes for the 1990 film Home Alone. In the film, the McAllister family travels to Paris for the holidays, but leaves one member of the family, Kevin McAllister, behind in Chicago. While adjusting to life without his parents, Kevin discovers that his house is a target of 2 burglars, Harry and Marv. Kevin protects his home from the robbers by placing booby traps throughout. After seeing Macaulay Culkin perform alongside the legendary John Candy and Uncle Buck in 1989, director John Hughes came up with the idea for Home Alone. According to Mental Floss, it all comes down to one scene in which Culkin, who has been left alone by his Uncle Buck for a short time, interrogates his would-be babysitter, Chinese, Buck's girlfriend, through a mail slot. Hughes went on to co-write and produce Home Alone with Chris Columbus, and the scene with Culkin talking through the mail slot was recreated when Kevin shot the wet bandits as they tried to break in through the doggy door. Number 2. John Candy was only reportedly paid $414 for his cameo in Home Alone. He's hard to miss as he slowly walks into the shot where Catherine O'Hara, playing Kevin's mother Kate, is ripping into a ticket agent at the Scranton, Pennsylvania airport as she desperately tries to get back to her son in Chicago. Candy, as polka star Gus Polinski, cautiously interrupts and tells Kate that if she doesn't mind riding in a truck with him and his polka band, he can help her get to Chicago. With his appearance, the self-proclaimed polka king of the Midwest not only moves the plot forward, he also adds a fantastic comedic element to a film that is already full of laughs. Nonetheless, Candy did not receive a large sum of money for her appearance. Columbus stated that Candy did it as a courtesy to the film's producer and screenwriter John Hughes. Columbus said there was certainly a little resentment of John's part. He then added, "It was a deal between him and John Hughes at the time. I never met John Candy before he came on the movie. I don't know if John ever got any kind of compensation from Fox," and Columbus remembers that even when the two did 1991's Only the Lonely together, Candy was still bitter about it. He said, "There were a couple times on set when he would make a cutting remark about Fox and what he was paid." Number 3. The tarantula on Marv's face was real. Aside from Kevin's famous face-clutching scream after putting on aftershave, one of the most terrifying screams in Home Alone is when the young hero smacks a tarantula right in the middle of Marv's face. His blood-curdling scream feels very real, and it could have been, because the tarantula was not a prop. According to Complex, Daniel Stern agreed to have a real tarantula placed on his face with one condition: they had to get the scene right in one take. They clearly pulled it off, and Marv's scream is very genuine. He said, "Not only was it really fun and funny to do it, but it was a personal challenge to overcome my fear of having something that icky and deadly crawling on my face." He then added, "It was even freakier because I had to do that scream, which meant my mouth was wide open too, and I was afraid the little bastard might take a detour down my throat." As for the scream, Stern insisted that too was most definitely real. "It came from a place in my soul that I've never before touched and never hope to again." Who could blame him? Number 4. In real life, Kevin's attacks might have killed the wet bandits. Most kids enjoy watching Kevin give it to Harry and Marv when they try to break into his house. The whole shebang, including burning hands on doorknobs and shooting them in the groin with a BB gun. In 2018, however, a doctor predicted what would happen if this was actually real life for the week, and the prognosis was bleak. For example, when an iron landed on Marv's head after he snuck into the basement, life would have looked very different for the burglar afterwards. Dr. St. Clair explained, "This is a serious impact with enough force to fracture the bones surrounding the eyes. This is also known as a blowout fracture and can lead to serious disfigurement and debilitating double vision if not repaired properly. So kids, definitely don't try this at home." Number 5. The Home Alone house was tough to cast. Who doesn't fall in love with the house in Home Alone? That kitchen is both a complete fantasy and a complete nightmare. It has its own personality. A character who was extremely difficult to cast. In 2015, Chris Columbus told Entertainment Weekly that it took weeks to find the house in Winnetka, Illinois, because writer John Hughes had a very specific vision of what he wanted. He told Entertainment Weekly, "We needed to cast a house that would work for the stunts and also a house that was visually appealing and, if this makes sense, warm and menacing at the same time. It's the kind of house if you were a kid, it would be fun to be left home alone." They scouted throughout the Chicagoland area before finding this home in Winnetka, and Hughes approved immediately, giving us the Home Alone scene that we for sure have grown to love and care for and be able to easily recognize because of these famous movies.